right, guys, welcome to the FFL Limitless Agency Call. Today we have a very special guest, and I'm not saying this to be biased, but Sheila, you're like one of my favorite agents in the company. Like just being real. You are so easy to work with, and you are absolutely freaking dominating this year. So we're super excited to have you on. Let's go ahead and get you started on kind of how you found FFL, what brought you to FFL, what you did before insurance.
Okay, so actually before insurance, my degree's in social work, so matches up with my passion to help people, right? Love helping people. And then from social work, after kind of social work burnout, went into my own business in the beauty industry and then became a corporate employee. And after several layoffs and basically re-interviewing for my job multiple times and then having opportunities to, take severance and be laid off. The last time I just said, okay, I'm good, I'm done. And I took the severance, and that's actually the money I used to start my business here at FFL. And that was in late December 2020. And then started in the field in January of 2021.
It's so crazy because I feel like it was just yesterday that you made your first sale. Tell us a little bit about your first sale, because I remember that yesterday. It was like a $3,000 policy. I remember you posting it like literally your first day in the field, and I was like, whoa, who is this girl?
It was, and I seriously had no idea what I was doing. Like, I remember dialing and being honestly kind of frustrated with the fact that, you hear, set 10, 15 appointments, and here I am dialing all day and I get like 3, and I'm like, okay, well, I have 3, so we go, right? And I'm talking to Jordan, who was my direct upline at the time, and I'm like, you're gonna help me when I get to the house, right? You're gonna help me? Yeah, yep. So I get to the house. I get to my first house, and I did not sell that one. Big long story, lots of applications, didn't happen. The second one, though, I go in and she's there with her daughter, and then had the other 3 daughters on a text. So the entire time we're talking through this appointment, she's texting and they're asking questions, and I'm getting all the information, getting all the help. End up basically all the daughters and the mom that we were insuring split the premiums. They obviously came out from the mom's bank account, but the daughters all pitched in to help to make it happen. So really neat story. It's still in force today. I still get to talk to them every year, if not a little more sometimes. I've talked to the daughter, talked to the mom, and it was just really neat. And then walking out of the house, I just remember walking out of the house excited that I had made a sale, that I had actually accomplished the task I set out to accomplish, but I literally had no idea what I had just done. And Jordan's like, well, what was the monthly premium? I don't know. So he taught me how to look it up and how to do the math, which of course is multiply it by 12. And I'm like, holy moly. He's like, yeah, that's what you're going to get paid. I'm like, this is great.
So tell us about so you've been here now about three-ish years or so. Tell us a little bit about your first 2 years in this business and like your first year. Cause I always tell people coming in, it's like, if you can make it through your first 9-10 months of this business, like you will absolutely love it, because what happens is you come in month 1, you write some business. Now month 9 hits. Well, we get a 9-month advance. So after that 9th month, you start getting paid on the business that you wrote in month 1, which is awesome. It all really starts to add up. So tell us about, the challenging parts of your first year or 2 years with FFL.
So I think challenges in the first year was just learning, just learning how to do everything and trusting the process. And I really did from the very beginning. I trusted the process. I did what I was told. But I think still the things that you don't know until you experience them. Your first chargebacks, your first roll-up debts from team members, things like that. Those were kind of my first challenges. And one of the things that I do feel like I kind of pride myself in it most of the time is I have a pretty high emotional intelligence. Like I don't get too excited and I don't get too down. So I stay pretty even. But there's been times where it was like, oh my gosh, what just happened, right? And I would call you or I would call Jordan or John or Hayden, whoever. And I think just for me, it was listening to what I had been told. And if there's a struggle, remembering to reach out, like reach out to the people, reach up, because first of all, I don't want that going down into my team. I want it going up into the hierarchy so that I can get the help I need and then get back on that even ground. So I think just um, and now I think it what it did for me was cause me to now, as I am recruiting, to remember what that was like and try to cover what we now call the good, the bad, the ugly, right? And really cover those things a little harder. And hey, when that happens, because it's going to happen, it's not an if, it's going to happen. When those things happen, call me,
Yep.
text me, reach out, because I've been there. I promise I've been there. So I think that was a lot of my learning in those first, especially the first year. Uh, I didn't do a lot of recruiting. I did follow the rules. I did recruit day one, and that agent is still here to this day. But as much as I love to help people, I dug in and I was helping everybody around me, and I was obviously learning it myself, but I really didn't dig into the recruiting piece until later. And honestly, not even yet quite now. I'm just now really starting to ramp all that. All these changes really happened more recently for me.
I love that. So entering into this year, you texted me and Hayden and you said, guys, like I'm telling you this year, I'm making it happen. I'm hitting Hall of Fame. I'm going to be recruiting. I'm going to be scaling my agency. Tell us like at what point that, and you have like the first 3 months of this year, your numbers have been so impressive. Your work, I mean, everyone knows your work ethic. You're up freaking first up in the morning on Zoom, last one to leave. Like literally, you work your butt off, Sheila. And I love and respect you so much for that. But coming into this year, tell us what you're doing differently from the last 2 years. And what have you done? What systems do you have in place now? What leads are you running? You can kind of take over from here of what you're doing to make this year your best year yet.
Okay. Well, at the end of last year, I texted you guys and I was like, okay, I've been thinking about, you know, the coming year. I guess it's been about a year and a half-ish ago that I made the transition from being in the field to being telesales. I've worked remotely before, so the discipline of it is not a problem for me. I still, though, love being on the Zoom because it's accountability for me. It's family. It's just a lot easier to do the day-to-day grind when you've got people, whether it's in an office or on Zoom. But I came into the remote virtual side of things, doing telesales, very disciplined. So I worked the hours that I work and I watched what I was doing. And I think we all have times where we're like, okay, did I really accomplish what I set out to accomplish today? We all have times where we're not the best with our time, but I think for the most part, I feel like I'm fairly strong in utilizing my time. But what coming into the telesales world did for me was it bought me back some time. And
Mhm.
I think I had fallen into, because I was working all day, every day in the field, but a lot of it on the road, right? And so I was able to turn that, and my wheels started turning, and I started talking to people like we're told to do all the time, talking to people who are doing what you want to do, where you want to be, that are doing more, performing higher than you are.
Yep.
So I talked to you and Hayden, and I was like, you know what? I've got to do something different. I got to do something different. Dial team wise, I've got to do something different to be reaching out to people because I don't want to be the top. I want to be the person who's learning from the top, and so that I can be, I can move up. Um, Being Hall of Fame just for the sake of being Hall of Fame has never really been my goal.
Yeah.
Like I was comfortable just doing my thing, helping people, helping families, right? But when I realized that, well, really, Hall of Fame is very doable. And especially when I realized I had bought back so much time,
Mhm.
that I actually now have a good balance of work and I'm able to participate in my church and my family. But my work time is work time and I don't do anything inside of that time. It's very rare that I have, times where I'm doing anything different. And I even feel like I have to report in, right? Like I'm going to be
Yeah.
off today because I'm going to do this or that.
Yeah.
But I think it's that level of discipline that really helped me. And I think that I made the decision that this year was going to be the year that there's no reason if I could increase my sales 25% last year that I couldn't do another 150 this year to reach Hall of Fame just by buckling down. But I knew I had to make some changes
Yep.
because I was utilizing all my time. I was strong in my time. So the changes I made um, in January, well, no, even before January. So sometime the end of last year, you texted me after several other people had said, Sheila, you need to look at mortgage. Sheila, you need to look at mortgage. Sheila, you need to look at mortgage. And you texted me and you're like, hey, you want to do mortgage? Sure. And I just went for it. And I think I got really comfortable getting uncomfortable towards the end of last year and the first of this year. I did go back into mortgage. I had done some mortgage in the field. I just hadn't done it remotely. Got back into mortgage. The premiums and retention went up. So that's the biggest piece of it right there as far as the number.
Yep.
My confidence began to build by being on dial team and listening to people who were doing better than I was and knowing that because I've heard it from some of my own agents and some other agents in the agency that I don't need to be on the Zoom because I've got this. But those that are on the Zoom, the people I'm actually on the Zoom with are integrity partners and Hall of Fame people and they've got it, but they're still on the Zoom, right? So I
Yep.
think that was a huge learning for me. Was you don't have it, and we have to unmute to be able to get help. So those I've always unmuted after Jamie wore me out for a while when I first came, but I've been good to unmute. I added the mortgage. And then in January, I think I reached out to you. We had talked a little bit, still planning for this Hall of Fame ramp up. What am I going to do differently? And I added a dialer at that point. And so I literally went from dialing all day for one call closes to honestly rarely dialing. I I dial when I have no shows. I dial, but a lot of times I'm doing follow-ups and I'm doing book of business and all of those other things that need to happen to bring in those additional sales. So I literally am rarely dialing, which now leaves me time to do the recruiting pieces, the social media pieces. I've ramped up social media quite a bit this year. So I think it's just those few things. And I feel like each little thing has made a significant difference. And I now have, in terms of keeping up with where I am, I know I'm behind Hall of Fame. Like you were talking about in the beginning, you weren't caught up till the second half of the year. I'm behind, but I know exactly where I am. And I know what my profitability looks like because I've got a tracker that I literally use every week. And I literally text you guys and be like, hey, this is how far I am behind. I know this is what I'm going to do.
Yep.
Um, thing.
I love that. And I
So
love that you mentioned probability or profitability. That's huge, you guys, because I mean, Sheila, you've probably seen it too. There's been a ton of people in the company. I don't want to say a ton, but there's been a couple people that might have these big numbers, say it's 400, 500, 600, 700,000 a year that they do, but they're not profitable. And that's where you can go wrong really, really quick. It's either their persistency, or B, they're just spending way too much money on leads and not working their leads hard enough. So I love that you mentioned profitability because that is huge. So you transition into mortgage protection. And I always tell people when they're getting started out, and this is what I was told early on. Hey, let's start with internet life leads. Let's start with final expense. Then we can transition into mortgage protection, because kind of learning like the basics is how you get really, really good at mastering the basics. And then it's okay to get uncomfortable in kind of like another direction, or, you know, you're really just mastering your lead flow in your first couple months. Let's talk about mortgage protection. How much are you spending a week currently in leads?
Uh, it does vary, but I'm keeping a constant flow now, so it's anywhere from 18 to 2,500
Perfect.
a week.
Awesome. Okay. And are you running digital mortgage leads?
Yes, these are social media mortgage leads. And you want me to tell which leads I'm using?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm using Clever Closers for the most part.
Okay.
I still also will fill in with some other things if for some, and I think that's the thing to remember is don't ever depend on just one lead source, because things can dry up and things can change. I actually had a slow week this week because things changed.
Yeah.
But we can go to the ILC and we can pull in some mortgage. There's social media mortgage there. We can do aged mortgage. I do things periodically just to go back through my leads, my old leads. That's the week that I did so much. The 2 weeks that I did so much was a lot of going back to either book of business, old leads, and then the additional having a good lead, new lead flow.
Yeah.
But I think it's good as managers to go through and have, even though we may prefer a lead source, a lead type or a lead source, to try out some different things, because we're helping new agents and everybody's in a different place, budget wise, skill wise, desire wise. So I have always kind of done a little mixture even after switching, but I will say I'm primarily
Mortgage.
Clever Closers.
Awesome. I love that. But I love what you said though about age leads, because like, for example, Hayden and I had a new agent start last week, and I put him on just a bunch of my age leads. Like I've had leads for a couple years sitting in my CRM, and the amount of appointments he booked was insane. He reached so many people that still hadn't even gotten this stuff taken care of. Same with Hayden. He sent a brand new agent leads yesterday, and the new agent on his first dial day made 2 sales off of aged leads, which is just like, it goes to show like there's still sales in there. And maybe you were calling them and those people just weren't answering the phone. Maybe you caught them at a bad time, and maybe now's a good time. So always going back to that is huge. I love that. So you're consistently purchasing, you know, leads from the CRM, and you're consistently purchasing Clever Closers. Let's talk about like when you buy the leads. I assume as soon as they start coming in, you start dialing them, right?
Yes, now that I have the dialer, we work it a little bit differently, because that in the past, yes, I would dial them or text them immediately depending on the time of day. Now, if they come in at night or before in the morning or between shifts of the dialer, then I will text an initial text,
Okay.
and as she's calling. So she's calling them when they're new, and then she's continuing to nurture through the old ones as well. And as far as the dialer setup, the way I have it right now is part-time dialer. She works Monday through Friday, 8 to 10. She was working 7 to 9. We changed it to 8 to 10 and 5 to 7. So 8 to 10 in the morning, 5 to 7 in the evenings. So prime time dialing. So she's getting a lot of appointments booked. And I'll have most weeks on average 25 to 35, sometimes more appointments. And I want to get to the point, and that's why I increased the lead flow recently. I want to get to the point where that's like 30 to 40.
Yeah.
Because you're still going to have your no-shows, you're still going to have your reschedules, you're still going to have those kind of things happen.
Absolutely. I love that like now we're super open about talking about dialers. Before it was like if you have a dialer, don't tell anyone, right? But
Mhm.
that's huge, guys. Like Sheila said in the at the beginning of the call, you're buying your time back. It's like when you once you I always tell people once you get to the point where you're doing 20 to 30,000 a month consistently in volume, it's okay to hire someone to make your dials for you. That makes your job so much easier because although you're still making dials, you're still doing back end things, you're still, you know, talking to clients and doing follow-ups and all that. Like you are walking into the day with appointments already pre-booked. And then from there, it's like it gives you time to work on the other things, such as recruiting, such as, you know, calling the carriers if you need to, just like follow-ups, things of that nature. So I love that you mentioned that. And then so you are basically you walk into your week with at least 25, 30 appointments. Now that's going to increase because you increase your lead flow, which that's how it works. Which
That's how I'm going to make up and get to Hall of Fame.
so out of those 20, let's just say 25 to 30 appointments that she books you, how many would you say what would you say the no-show ratio is?
The no-show ratio most of the time is actually not bad. We have with the mortgage leads that, and Hayden had asked me to talk a little bit about the difference between mortgage and final expense in that respect. And that's kind of the difference. With final expense, you pretty much do have to do one call close because
Yeah.
they're not coming back on them.
Yep.
It's just the demographic, the situation. With mortgage, appointments are fairly common because people work. They have a mortgage, so they have a job and they have things that they're doing, so families and things like that. So what I find, I do go through just like everybody else. I go through times where, and I did last couple of days, had a bunch of no-shows. But on average, it's not so much the no-show rate that's low, it's reschedules.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about this, or oh, I talked to my wife and I didn't realize she has this or that.
Yep.
So I think, you know, and we've done some things. I have something that's probably unique to me, because I know in talking to Kate, this was not something she had done before. My dialer gets on Zoom. We're in Zoom together. So when she's dialing and she has questions, I can answer them. We got in and I listened to her dial. If there's concerns about, if I do have an increase in no-show rates, sometimes that's just because it is what it is. But sometimes it's, well, are we still doing whatever it is? Are we still, you know, really locking down that time? Are we reminding them that, you know, you're setting time on the calendar, taking time away from other people, you know, all of those little things that lock it down. So when I talk to her there live on Zoom, she can make the changes instantly. So
Yeah.
that's been very, very good.
That's huge.
So I think I was looking at my tracker earlier just before we had this call, and I do track appointments versus like how many apps I have, and it's generally about a third.
Okay.
Some of that's because of schedule, some of that's because of no shows, and some of that's because of no sales, like we just didn't close the deal. But that's kind of where I'm landing. So knowing that, and I think that's the importance of the tracker, because if you know your numbers, then you can figure out how many more appointments you have to get in order to get to the number you're trying to get to.
Yep, I agree. I love that you mentioned tracking because that's something that I always did. I always tracked, hey, this is how many leads I purchased. Out of these leads, this is how many actually picked up the phone. This is how many I booked appointments with. This is how many presentations I did. This is how many people no-showed me. That way it gauges also what leads you like to run or what leads you kind of have a better ratio on. Some people love running the like Harold Durana. He talks about how he buys the $1.50 leads, $2.50 leads, and he just text blasts them, and that's all he does. He doesn't really like to dial the phone. He loves those super, super aged leads. Other people love to buy brand new, fresh mortgage. Like there's so many ways you could do this thing, but the key is to just track and master your numbers and what works for you. So that was really, really good. As far as you mentioned that the persistency on mortgage protection is a lot higher, and I would definitely agree. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think again, I think it goes back to demographics and the fact that we're in that respect, we're dealing with clients who have a home, so therefore they have some sort of income, some sort of credit, built up in order to have at least gotten the mortgage. So I think that's why in mortgage protection that we see that. Because I don't really think there's anything necessarily different that I'm doing in terms of the appointment itself. I think it's just the demographic and the type of coverage that we're looking at. And if I may, I'd like to also talk about from the mortgage leads, is also where you find more opportunities. Not that you can't, because I found one just last week from old final expense lead, but IUL and annuity opportunities, because they're also people who have money.
Yep.
If they have a large house, they didn't get a large house because they don't have any money. Now they may have spent every penny they have. There are those that spend every penny on their house, but most of the time you find that there's other sources of money out there. And I have learned, one of the things that I have really learned lately is digging into that money, because if they have money in one place, if they have a large sum of money somewhere, they have another large sum of money somewhere.
Yeah.
They're either investing in real estate, or they've got something in this fund and something in that fund and something in another fund, this bank, that bank kind of stuff, because people who have money split it up and diversify.
Yep.
So I've been able to identify and close a few IUL opportunities, and definitely IUL opportunities, and a few annuities. So, and there's more to come on that. I know, I talked to Hayden recently about one large one that's hopefully coming my way. So we'll keep working on it.
All because you asked the right questions. That's all it is. And it's like, if we got out of our own heads and asked that question, what do you have that acts like life insurance, any 401ks, IRAs, stocks, bonds, mutual funds? Just asking that question in your presentation once a week. If you talk to 20, 30 people a week, how many people are going to say yes out of those?
Right.
Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's an opportunity for you to make more money, but also for you to put the client in an amazing position financially. So,
well, and even if it's a not now, like even if it is right now, we're still going to deal with the purpose that we're there for. And then later in the conversation, we can circle back to it. But sometimes it's truly a not now, like this is going to happen for me in the future. But by asking the question, we find out those situations. And that does bring me to one other change that I did make. I went to two fall conferences when we had them back in the fall, the sales conferences, and both of them, I ran into Jesse Hantla at both of them. And at the first one, Jesse said, he was telling us how he does his inventory. He uses a specific SRS financial inventory. If anybody wants it, I can post it. He uses the SRS financial inventory, and he uses it in Notability on his iPad. I have been a paper financial inventory person in every home, and I carried that right into the remote world and virtual. And that was another thing. Somewhere, I want to say, I could go back and look in my iPad, somewhere around the 20th of December, I cut the cord and said, nope, I'm doing it. I'm doing everything in Notability, so I can literally search things, and I have that built in, and it literally has those questions on there. Are you a spender or a saver? Are you, and we have it on the little one too, but there's just something about this that has it makes me ask it every time. And it has made a huge.
If you can post that in our team chat, because that'll be super helpful to everyone across the. One last thing I want to ask you is, with mortgage protection, I think a lot of people, when they think of mortgage protection, they get really excited because they think it's a lot of younger people looking for 100, 200, 300, 400, $500,000 of coverage. And then when they get when some of their leads come in, they're getting 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds. that are looking for potentially 300, $400,000 of coverage. But let's say you get on the phone with someone and they have some health conditions. And as we all know, insurance is all based off age, health, habits. So an insurance company is not going to insure someone that has had some health issues or is on several medications for a large sum of money. So what is your best tip for protecting someone's equity or equity protection?
Yep. I typically, and I'll have people that will literally come and say, I know I can't afford it. I've already been, looking, and this is not going to be affordable. Had that happen when I was in the field doing mortgage. And one of the questions I'll just ask too is, well, has anybody, if that's the case, if that's the objection, well, has anybody actually talked to you about equity protection? They probably quoted you the full mortgage, half a mortgage, but did anybody talk to you about equity protection? I don't know, what's that? And then I literally just explain, and even and I will tell people, like, if I have that person who's 80 years old and or has, very unhealthy or those things, although we could look at term for you. It might be something that would be cost prohibitive. It may not make sense, but if not, we have other options. And so when we look at equity protection, we're looking at a number of months. So before I really even talk about options, I'm finding out what the situation is so that if I come to that, I know what I can say and how I can handle it. So in other words, when I'm asking about from the very beginning of a mortgage protection appointment, when I'm actually beginning the appointment piece, I'm asking them what their situation is. Like, are you looking at this? Who are we looking to protect? What's the situation? Can you kind of paint that picture for me? I literally say those words. Can you kind of paint the picture for me of what that would look like? Because then I know if they really, really are looking towards the whole thing, or if worse comes to worse, they may want the whole thing, like you said, but if worse comes to worse and we can't get that, is it going to be an easy pivot down to equity protection? And many times it is, because many times they don't realize that's even an option. They
Yeah.
just say, I have this much and I want my house protected, but
Yep.
they're going to sell it. I mean, I've had people literally from the beginning go, yeah, if I die, this house ain't, they're selling it. I just want them. And I explained to them that the real insurance is in the equity that they just told me they had in the house, because I've
Yep.
asked how much the mortgage is, how much the house would sell for. In today's market, what are the houses selling for in your area? If they don't know the house value, I'll say it kind of that way. And I'll tell them even at that point, that's where your real insurance is. That's what we want to protect. So whether we can get the entire mortgage protected or a portion of it protected, that's what we're here to do today. And I think that really, really helps with that equity protection piece. And I think that people just don't even realize. They're just thinking, they ask me how much my mortgage is, so I tell them how much my mortgage is. They're not really thinking of all the different ways that we can protect it.
Yeah.
And then alternatively to that, if I know their budget, because I've also asked, so the way I ask the budget now, which has changed slightly, the way I ask the budget now is what their monthly bring home is, and obviously their source, whether they're employed, they're retired, whatever that monthly number is. Okay, perfect. And then you have your mortgage and you've got other expenses. So kind of ballpark at the end of the month, what would you say you kind of have left over pretty much month after month after you've paid all your bills? Because then I know when I go to quote them this $400,000 mortgage and it's $700 a month and they have 200 left over, this ain't gonna work.
Yep.
I already know it's not gonna work, right? So I know how to speak to them. So that those are the key pieces. I think if we skip the financial inventory pieces, if we skipped the house value, if we skip the amount of the mortgage payment, if we skip how much income they have or what's left over, some form of way of asking that budget question, that's when we're going to run into trouble when we start trying to pull out the options, because it's going to make sense. And then I can literally tell them, if they're really unhealthy and they've got some age, if those premiums are high, you know, I said, well, we also have options for, I'm going to show you this because, this will cover X number of months and this is what that will do. But if that's not going to work for you, just let me know because we still have another option as well. It's called self-insuring. And then I go the flexible premium annuity NLG route.
I love that. That is awesome. Thank you, Sheila. Those were some amazing nuggets. Well, we are super grateful for you as always. You are a just tremendous individual. Like everyone that always talks about Sheila Day always has the best things to say, which is so awesome. So I'm looking forward to a massive year with you. You are amazing. And I know a bunch of people were texting me saying they couldn't even get on. So I will make sure that this is posted on YouTube. And you guys should definitely rewatch this because this was a great one. Thank you for getting on, Sheila.
Thank you. Thanks all. Have a great day.